The following is a presentation of Tuning into Sci-Fi TV, the viewer's guide to genre television.
Hello and welcome to the Small Council Matters podcast. I am Wendy Hembrock, and the council is back to discuss A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, based on the novella by George R.R. Martin of Hedge Night. And we want to get started by first circling around the table and introducing yourself, please, Maesters.
Hey everybody, this is Shannon out in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm really excited to talk about Game of Thrones Episode 8, Season 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. That's what we're talking about, right?
I'm Christine Peruski, your mistress of correction, and I'm like a knight, but sadder.
I am Jesse Jackson from Dallas, Texas, maester of sunshine, rainbows, and chronicle of all things Springsteen, and gosh, it's great to be back at the table.
Thank you all. I'm Wendy, the maester of links and Google Docs, and very happy to see everybody. Shannon was pointing out we haven't been together talking about the Game of Thrones universe since August of 2024, which is shocking to me. It doesn't feel that long. It's great to be back together talking about a very fun show. Before we dive into the details, first just want to remind folks that we'd love to hear comments and feedback from you. You can join our Discord channel and talk to other listeners as well. We have a specific channel just for the George R.R. Martin universe. You can also contact us on social media if you're on those things. We are at Tuning Into Sci-Fi and at SCM_pod. Or you can call us at 706-927-8478. Or you can follow the link on our page to drop us a voicemail. We would love to hear from you. So we just have a couple of news and links to talk about. Most of them come from fan sites, but there's one interesting story about George R.R. Martin talking about how busy he is and projects he's working on, and of course reaffirming my theory that he will never finish A Song of Ice and Fire. I will let others debate that, though. We also have some information about A Night of the Seven Kingdoms in terms of what to expect. We've got 6 episodes in season 1, and the very first one ran about 42 minutes. Most of them are going to run closer to 30 or so minutes. We also have an article talking about some Game of Thrones characters who may appear in the series. And we also have a link to the introduction scene of the series. And obviously, we're talking about spoilers. So if you haven't watched episode 1 yet, come back when you have. But this particular article points out some biological activity, I will call it, and why it's there. It isn't just there as maybe a visual gag or a shock. What do you guys think of our first round of notes and news?
On the latter one first, I'm not a big fan of poop jokes and whatever. I was shocked that they did that, but it actually made me laugh out loud because you get the Game of Thrones theme, the big swelling music, and then we cut to that. So I think right away, in addition to portraying a hero with a nervous stomach, as Ira Parker, the showrunner, said in the article, I think it also puts us in the mindset of what kind of show we're going to get. It's not going to be, an epic tale where the fate of the world rests in the balance. And it also says it's going to be a show that has some humor about it. So I was willing to overlook a little of that I don't particularly find that funny, for what it actually achieved. So, and then the George article, that's like the first major profile that he's done in a while. I agree with you, Wendy, that, it doesn't look like those books are getting done. They said he has over 1,100 pages on, the Winds of Winter right now. And that's not even including finishing that, plus another whole tome to wrap it up, A Dream of Spring. And the main thing I think that everybody was buzzing about was how awful his relationship is with Ryan Condal, who runs House of the Dragon. It's like they don't even talk anymore. And I'm a big fan of House of the Dragon and of the book. So it's kind of sad that it's come to that. But if you're a Thrones fan, it's definitely worth a read on that one.
Is it just me, or didn't we hear a while back that George announced he was not going to finish the books? Am I hallucinating this memory? So now he's come back and said he did. And now he's come back and said, no, he's going to finish it. He wants to finish it. He's working on it. Make up your mind, dude. All I can see is that he's got so many distractions. And I'm like, if it was important to you, you'd put aside the distractions and you would work on it. So I'm not expecting much. I'm really not. The article about the 3 characters we might see, even if we do see them, they'll be like Easter eggs because they'll all be kids, little kids, and they obviously won't be played by the same actors. That's not like big news to me. The intro thing, I gotta say, I laughed at first because I heard the music coming and I'm like, please don't use that music again. It doesn't fit this show. It doesn't. And then they cut it off with him doing that. I was like, okay, yes, thank you. And what I didn't need was the side shot. I did not need the graphic shot. I was like, okay, no, we don't need that. Game of Thrones, has definitely not been afraid to use poop jokes in the past. I'm remembering Sam at, the Maesters, whatever. That was, I didn't like that either, but I did like, I agree, Shannon, it's definitely tone setting. Like it really said right off the bat, it is not going to be an epic show that goes with that theme music. That's not this show. And it's definitely not going to be that serious. And, I liked that. I liked that little touch. And I like that we didn't really get a big credit sequence. It was just title over the screen. And I'm like, I think that works here. I think that works with this show. And then I read this article and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. I can also see actually what the character went through that brought him to that, I guess. But I really feel like everybody needs to read the article to get that point. So maybe it didn't work quite so well. I don't know. It's definitely going to be an interesting, new show for us. Definitely different from the other shows.
Yeah, I am a big fan of Kevin Smith, so D and poop jokes, are certainly something I can embrace. I think it was Alan Sipwell had in his pre-review that was a non-spoilery had said that there was a joke coming to kind of show the idea. So I think it just went a little too long and a little too graphic, but hey, move on. If that's what they wanted to do, it's fine. I read the George R. R. Martin and I have mixed emotions. I've not read the books. I probably won't read the books, so I don't have any skin in the game. But I do, when you're talking about, well, I've still got more Duncan and Egg stories I want to tell. I want this to do that. Why aren't I'm more involved with this? It kind of feels, they used to say, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys didn't tour so he could be in the studio. And toward the end of his career, people said he toured so he didn't have to go back to the studio because he didn't want the pressure. And it feels like all this is his excuse not to do this because I don't know if it sounds like he wrote himself in a corner. He's gotten in the South, right? Too big for his britches. Maybe he just got too crazy on what he thought he could do and he's kind of overextended himself. Then and not from, I do not have $1 million empire based on my story, so I'm certainly not one to criticize, but like, okay, tone it down a little bit, right? Or finish what you have, wrap up what you have, and say, okay, now it's going to be 3 more books, right? But at least they could get this new. I think, and he keeps talking about, I can't do a Game of Thrones sequel on TV because my ending is going to be different than the TV's ending. Well, that's just throwing, blood in the water for the fan sharks. But great article. I did think it was a little cold, though, on the point where the fan says, hey, you're going to die. So can you get this done before you die? There was something along that lines. I am overly casual, but that's pretty close to the guy's statement. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's also part of what's driving him is, will he actually have much of a legacy if he doesn't finish those books? And why would anybody start reading a book series that was never finished in the future? I mean, I'm wondering what the book sales are for new readers coming into that universe. I have no appetite to go read them for myself. I did read the first 2 and then I stopped. But that was mainly because I didn't want to be confused and spoilered for watching the TV show. And I didn't read the first book until we were already in season 3. So yeah, the thing about George R. R. Martin, it is sort of beware of what you wished for. He's gotten all this success and he needs to make choices about what's actually important. Is the foundational story important to finish? Or not. So we shall see. This show, I want to go back to the comment about the credits scene and the call it gastronomical challenges, the projectile poop. I thought that was a great way to tell us that this is not your same old Game of Thrones. It's definitely different from what we've had before. Much lighter in tone to me. And I'm on board for that. This is definitely a different kind of a story, different focus. It's not going to be epic politics and battles. It's going to focus more on individual characters. At least that's my thoughts coming out of episode 1. We would love to hear folks' thoughts about the episode, just as a reminder. And now we're going to swing on over into our discussion, get into more spoilers and details. And first, we're going to go around the table and give our quick review, ratings, and some quick thoughts. And Shannon is going to start us off.
Well, I absolutely adored this. I thought it was completely charming, well cast. We talked about the music, that they had a little fun with Ramin Djawadi's Thrones theme. But the guy that's doing the music for this one, is a composer named Dan Romer. And I loved how different it was than a lot of what we got in Thrones. It was like a lot of stuff you might hear at a Ren Fair, a lot of balisets and strings and, that seemed to give you the feel of small folk, which is kind of where this is focused. So I don't know whether they're actually going to have a credits thing with an actual theme for episodes beyond the first one. We'll see next week, I guess. But I did love the music. I loved everything about it. It kept me smiling. I couldn't wipe the grin off my face at the end of it when it was done. It was optimistic and funny. I remember when Thrones used to be so funny. So I liked having, charming, witty characters. So I give this a 9.8 out of 10.
My audio is not cooperating. There we go. So definitely the music was was key. I mean, it was so noticeable, and it might have been noticeable even to somebody like me who tends to not notice the music, because they did that trick with the intro. It got you listening to, oh, is this the intro music? And then it changed to, like you said, the more Ren Fair stuff. I actually worked at the Renaissance Festival, many, many years. So it was very familiar to me, but it also reminded me of fantasy video game music, like world music or town music. And I felt like that fit too. Something a little more down to earth, grounded, something everybody can relate to. And I liked it. This is a breath of fresh air in the Thrones universe. And I'm just so happy to see it. I like the characters. I like the humor. I like the dancing. And so I give this, because it didn't really get us anywhere so far. And, I don't have a lot of thrill yet. I'm only going to give it 8 out of 10 Robins in a Thorn Tree.
I echo on the music. I will be a little bit longer on my quick take than I probably should be, but this October, the Springsteen movie Deliver Me From Nowhere came out. And at the end of it, I said, I don't know who this movie is for because it's a very quiet movie. It is about Bruce's depression and how that affected his writing Nebraska. I think it's a brilliant film, but I don't know who that film is for. I do know what this series is for. It's for Game of Thrones fans who want good storytelling, but this is a quiet show. And even though we have fun, it looks like we're going to have a lot of battles and we're going to have, fun music. This is a quieter show. And whether we talk about the small folks or it's a slower paced show too. It doesn't look like we're going to have at now a lot of different viewpoints. We're going from one land to another. I just think this is the perfect way to expand the Game of Thrones universe. I love all the cast. I love the feeling that I can't wait to know what happens next. So once again, I'm kind of like Christine. I'm going to give it a little lower rating because I don't know where we're going and I'm ready for the story, but I'm going to give it 8.5 half-eaten pastries where I almost swore he was going to, what'd you bring me? Here, have a tart. So yeah, I just lovely. A lovely way to end the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. This is sort of like a trip to the medieval Ren Fair for everybody. It's definitely different than Game of Thrones tonally. I'm not expecting there to be massive sort of geopolitics things at stake. And it's going to be that, I'll say, quieter, in-depth look at the small folk and towns that maybe just got mentioned or somebody's finger dragged across them on a map, but we never went to those places in the show. I very much like that this was an introduction to a couple of main characters and not a huge cast of thousands as well. There might be thousands of people at the tourney ultimately, but we're going to focus on a handful. Like Christine and Jesse, I left room to grow. So for me, I'm giving this 8.5 Lionel Baratheon swirling dances on the table. That was definitely something I hope we'll talk about a little bit more when we get into some of the details of this episode, which we'll probably do in a minute. As we transition now to talking in more details about some of our highlights, either favorite scenes, character moments, and Shannon, we'll start with you.
Well, fortunately, Wendy, you don't have to wait long because my favorite part of the whole episode was the Lionel Baratheon tent. That was awesome. Just, it was electric, the whole thing. And one thing you notice is that in Game of Thrones, the books were a point of view for each kind of character. And although this is like the only Game of Thrones media I haven't read the books on, my knowledge of this is just from being exposed to everything else in Game of Thrones and having read all the other books. But my understanding is that it's only from Dunk's perspective. And, one of the things I read in the build up to the show is you experience things as he does. So his walk into that tent, he had no idea what to expect, and he instantly stands out being tall, and you see him slump to try to, be less conspicuous, which obviously doesn't work. And then instantly my new favorite character in all of Thronesdom is the Laughing Storm. Good God, the casting of this guy, the performance, the writing for him, all terrific. He was funny as can be when he's like hammered and trying to tell a story and just trails off and gets one of his toadies to remind him where he was. And he's like, oh yeah, and then he calls Dunk over, and then he kind of quasi intimidates him and interrogates him, but is also shows some kindness and wisdom for a powerful lord. And then the foot stomping that leads to a dance, and his dance, like, he was tripping X at a rave. He was fantastic. So that was kind of I thought the whole episode was charming and delightful, but that scene in particular, what a great combination of cast and writing and music and performance and everything. Just absolutely sensational.
So it took one episode for Shannon to steal my scene. Of course I was going to talk about the dancing. So I mentioned earlier, I've worked at the Renaissance Festival for several years. I also LARPed for several years. Apparently they've got it right, because this is exactly what happens in those places. I mean, you want to see, this was a result of peacetime. Like, all of these people, they haven't seen a war. They only know how to, they're tourney knights, just like they mention in House of the Dragon in the first episode. They're tourney knights. They don't really know about war. So all they do, they all head to the next tourney and set up their pavilions and drink and tell stories. And, a couple days later, they're going to go beat each other up. Lionel Baratheon was telling the story about how 400 years ago, a couple of men came to this field and started bloodying each other with sticks, and that is a joy that men could not invent. And I'm like, you are so full of crap. That's all men want to do. They just want to beat each other up with sticks. Of course, men invented this. Trying to say that joust was invented by gods, please. And this is exactly the type of crap that, you go to a Renaissance festival and hang around the jousting nights. That's them. That's them right there. This is perfect. I know these people personally. There's a little less dancing with those guys, though, because it is modern day and people, they just don't dance like they used to. And that's a shame. And that's why I love this dancing scene, because people used to dance. Men used to dance and they used to enjoy it. And now there's some weird stigma with it. I loved this scene for just the pure joy of dancing and no shame involved. Especially, if you don't know how to dance, what does that mean? You jump around, have fun. This was the heart of the episode to me. I'm here for it.
The joy of when Duncan steps back on his foot, right? But what I loved is the discussion where you're either here to curry my favor or my head. And you're saying neither. So why are you here? And just bluntly, honestly, supper. And they just look at him like, oh, okay, yeah.
Me too.
Well, sit down then, it was just a beautiful written scene and perfect. And I almost picked, but I know that wasn't a turkey leg, so I couldn't figure out what leg that was that he was given to him, but that almost was my pick. Because like he just looks at that like, because as he said, he's always hungry. As this guy, driving or walking, riding around. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful scene. And like, hey, you want to wear my crown with the horns? Sure, do it on. Just there's so much joy in that scene. Just really beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was definitely a highlight for me. I loved the camera work that you mentioned, Shannon, where it is this trippy spinning view for Dunk. Also, at the point he enters that tent, that's when he's kind of made some moral adjustments about his approach to everything happening with his tourney, because he's been doing everything by the book and getting blocked at every turn, right? He went through this whole thing to try to talk to the guy who supposedly his lord would, be vouching for him to get in. And when he comes into the tent, he's just like, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to, whatever comes out of my mouth. I'm not really all that worried anymore. Maybe because he's so hungry. Maybe because he's tired. Or because of the twinkle in Lionel Baratheon's eye. I loved how they did form a very quick alcohol-fueled friendship. They're having, they were deep in their cups. They might describe that. So yeah, great scene. I just love that scene. So now, Christine, the challenges. What do you got?
I just want everybody to know that we're recording this the night after this aired. We all worked, so most of us watched this once. I got in a second viewing, but I didn't take notes. Shannon's so mean to me. I think I'm gonna go with the opener. Not because I'm a huge fan of it, but because, and I don't know if they did this on purpose or if this is just, straight from the book. This screamed A Knight's Tale. The movie with Heath Ledger. I mean, the movie starts the same way. Their knight has died, and they don't know what to do. And they're trying to figure out how to make money to get them fed or something. And so they decide to pretend to be him, the knight. And here we are. His knight's died. He's having a little funeral for him. And he's decided he's keeping his sword because it'll just rust in the ground. And what's he gonna do? He's not gonna, if he could sell the horses, but that's only gonna get him so far. Or he can go to this tourney. And I'm like, this seems awfully familiar. So none of us have actually read this book. So I don't know if this is just verbatim out, and I don't know if the book came before that movie or what, but it also just made me feel comfortable with the show because I'm like, I know this story. Yeah, I like this. I mean, it goes a little different after that. Different story. He doesn't have armor, by the way. Well, he does. He does have the chainmail, but it's just like, he's gonna get his ass kicked, and it's gonna be hilarious. But I love that he's just out there in the rain by himself, trying to have a proper funeral, and he's a very simple man. You really get to know Duncan in this scene, like right off the bat. He's a simple man. He's a kind man. He doesn't care that he was beaten like crazy by his knight, because apparently he felt he deserved it, except for that one time. That one time in Maidenpool. So, it really endears you to this man right at the start, which is key. It's such a short series with very short episodes. And I think they nailed it. I think there isn't a person out there who doesn't like this character because he's just so lovable.
I love that you brought that up. It is the what I'm getting the feeling, right, is Duncan is a simple man, but he's not necessarily a unwise man. He may not have a lot of training, but I think, he has at least some, he isn't Chauncey from Being There, right? Like that, who's a simple. So I thought it was really like talking to the horses, because who else is he going to talk to, right? He's got no one else. So yeah, that was, and it, there should be proper words, right? I don't know the words. He truly wants to honor his father figure. And I just thought there was a really sweet way to start this. And also on practical, like, boy, it's raining. That helped him digging, because the ground would have been soft. So, yes, it was a narrow, for those of you who can't see, Christine just made a very narrow grave. So, yes, good choice.
Yeah, this was going to be one of my choices as well, because it does very quickly tell us a lot about him. He's likable. He's like a big dog, in a lot of ways physically. I loved the flashback of all the times that he was being smacked around by the master and maybe not deserving it, but he himself wasn't angry or resentful about his treatment. He truly, was grateful for the treatment that he had. And then we got his thought process about, well, it's no point leaving this sword, and what are we going to do next? And he doesn't rush, right? He's laying on the grass for quite a while before he makes his decision about what to do. And, Jesse, you were talking about, he's not simple. I think he's true. I think he's true to, the things that he's been raised to believe. And I'm speculating, but I think his hero's journey is going to confront a lot of the things that he thinks are true with what is actually the true nature of some of his fellow Westerosians.
Yeah, the talking to the horses thing, I think, was just an excellent creative choice. Because again, if you have a character by himself, if you're reading a book, you're in his head and you know his thoughts, and all those things would be his thoughts that you're reading on the page. But having him talk to the horses reveals something about his character, and it also is an exposition dump that's done in a very charming way that also reveals layers of character. So I thought that was a great choice and well executed, with some very nice cinematography and shots on it. And then, Christine, you brought up the thing about A Knight's Tale, which I'm sure anybody watching this who doesn't know any of the backgrounds of it automatically went to. And I read an article today where they were talking to the showrunner, Ira Parker, and he's like, when we first decided we were going to do this, the one word that George said we can't say on set or in the writer's room is A Knight's Tale. Because that's generally regarded as the best that jousting has ever looked on film. There were also some votes for the Ridley Scott movie, The Last Duel, but that made it visceral and real and really showcased how jousting was done. And it also has a similar storyline of a humble knight who may or may not have the bona fides to be a knight. And it's a similar story, but George was sensitive to that because the first novella was written 2 years before A Knight's Tale came out. So he didn't want anybody, like once Game of Thrones got popular, to think, oh, he wrote this based on A Knight's Tale, when actually it was the other way around. So, but they all agreed that movie made it look great. And George's thing was, this has to be the best jousting and games that we've ever seen on television. And so secretly, the showrunner and everybody else said, okay, our bar to clear is A Knight's Tale. But George's is the classic movie Ivanhoe. And when he was writing, he said that's just perfectly depicting the medieval encampments and the games of the knights and everything. So that's George's bar to clear, is the old classic Ivanhoe.
Ah, interesting. I do remember watching Ivanhoe, like in the 70s. I don't remember very much about it at all. So that's a great highlight, Christine. Jesse, can you raise the bar?
So one of the things we talked about before we record is one of the things that, because the show is the length it is, it may be difficult to come up with 4 highlights. So I feel slightly guilty that I'm going to pick one that I think you might want, Wendy, and that's the ending, and not necessarily Egg's there and Duncan's saying, yes, you can be my squire and we'll see how it works out. But I'm going to talk the specific when they're laying in the camp. They're laying there kind of in their makeshift bedding, and the shooting star comes by. And they say, oh, will you watch that? That's lucky. And then Egg goes, and, everyone else is probably in their tents. And Duncan's looking at him like, what are you talking about? Like, leave me alone. And then all of a sudden, even despite his cynicism, he's like, well, that might mean we're the only ones getting the luck. And Egg doesn't say anything. And it's such a sweet, and I know I keep using that word, but it's a sweet, quiet moment. And you guys often lovingly pick at me. I always pick the smallest, softest moments when we do this. And when I saw that, I go, okay, if no one's picking that moment, that's the one I'm going to talk about. That maybe, maybe Duncan is thinking, maybe I am going to have some luck. And I think because of his strength and size, that he may do better than we think he's going to do. But anyway, that little lovely, like, well, maybe we are going to get the luck that no one else is seeing, I thought was a great way, kind of punctuation on the episode.
So, Jesse, that was going to be my highlight. So I'll have to come up with another one really quick while we go around the table. But yeah, because one, it shows that Egg really listened to Duncan when he was talking earlier in the episode about how it's so much better to live under the stars than in a stuffy old tent. And it was that, hey, look for the bright side of the situation. And now we have Egg getting accepted as the squire. And I do agree that it ends on this hopeful, positively naive kind of questioning note leading us into the next episode. And I thought that was a really nice way to leave us with these characters. There's still a lot we don't know about the characters, but we're left in a hopeful position, which is not always the case in Westeros. So I think that's a great choice.
You mean ending the first episode with a kid getting pushed out a window isn't hopeful? So, yeah, that's a good point, Wendy. There are multiple things to like about that. The first is it makes a perfect bookend to the episode because we start outside and we end outside, under a tree. And there's a beautiful symmetry to that. And it shows him in one position in life, and then just 40 minutes later, he's on his quest and he's got a squire and he's at the tournament. He hasn't been vouched for yet, but then the shooting star, like, is a sign of luck. And I loved his thing, like, well, maybe they didn't see it and it's just for us, and then you see Egg quietly smile. It's like, I got through to him, it's just like, it's kind of a Louis, this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship moment. And both actors played it perfectly. So it was sweet. It was well done. And there's also some tie. I mean, Game of Thrones also famously had a shooting star, early on too. So I thought it was great symmetry and well done and very hopeful.
I thought it was an interesting choice to combine Game of Thrones and Avatar: The Last Airbender, having Aang in this show. Oh, wait. No, that's right. His name's Egg, not Aang. There's just a little similarity there. No, I actually am very glad you picked this scene, because once I picked my scene, I had this horrible thought that nobody's going to talk about Egg. He's only in 2 scenes, and, well, maybe 3. They're both outside, but they're broken up. Anyway, he is the other main character of this show, and he's very unique. And I love the forming of this relationship. I love how he inserts himself into Dunk's life. And listen, I'm not going to give up. You're just going to have to deal with me. And it was sweet. And I agree. Trees leak. I don't want to sleep under a tree. I have been caught out in the rain before with my dog, and none of the trees were very helpful. And so that was not fun, but I guess Duncan can use the bath. His clothes certainly can. Doesn't anybody teach them to use water to wash your clothes? He's really going to need Egg on this, and I feel like Egg's going to give him so much more than just squiring. Poor little bald kid. Honestly, this is one of the reasons why I gave the episode a little bit of a lower score, because I needed more of this. This was delightful. These 2 characters together, and this very intelligent little kid just staring down this mountain of a man. And what's wrong with you? He just looks at him like he's the most perplexing thing ever, and how's he going to solve this puzzle? I am looking forward to these 2, and this episode was lacking these 2, so I loved this scene. This is a great choice.
Any final thought, Jesse? You look like you were going to add something.
No. I'm just now, maybe I should have picked the horror talk so I could have left you with this one.
No, that's okay. I'm not picking that as my highlight. I'm actually going to go back. Christine talked a lot about it. Is the scene where they meet, and it's very much a contrast between these 2 characters. You have Duncan, who's very large and kind of unwieldy, and he thinks that he is a powerful person. He walks up to Egg and is like, "Take her on my horse and go do it now." And he's belting out orders, but he doesn't actually even know who this kid is. And we're very quickly aware that he's smarter than Duncan. And we don't know why he wants to be a squire. We don't know what's really going on. We get a little somewhat of a tease, or I'll say a breadcrumb trail about the fact that he's from King's Landing as a clue, but we don't really know why he's here. And the thing that I very much like about their dynamic, it reminds me a lot of the Mothership Game of Thrones, when we have some of our best travel buddies pairings. We talked about Brienne and Jaime, or I'm going to forget the name of the sail sword.
Bronn and
Tyrion. Yeah, Bronn and Tyrion.
Or Arya
Pod.
and the Hound.
Yeah, or Pod and Tyrion. Yeah, and certainly Arya and the Hound. And actually, after the episode aired, I was thinking about the humor that we had in Game of Thrones, and the one where the Hound is with Arya in the place where they're going, and they want to eat a chicken. And the Hound is talking about, "I'm going to have to kill every one of you and eat 15 chickens by the time we're done." And the scene where Brienne is with Jaime and he's just lost his hand and he can't cut his meat, and she reaches across the table and stabs it to help him out. It's those kinds of dynamics that we just got the very glimpse of those things to come is in this relationship. So I really I liked what they're laying down as our starting point.
Whenever I think about an order like that, I always think about the Blues Brothers when Jake orders 4 fried chickens and a Coke. So yeah, I like that scene when he approached him, because like you said, Wendy, he immediately perceived him as a stable boy. And he was firm and barking orders like you would at a parking valet or something. But he wasn't unfair, and he said, well, I'll give you a coin, for your trouble if you do a good job. So you see that he's still trying to uphold that knightly sense of honor that he thinks he needs to carry. How much of that was taught to him by his mentor, we don't know yet, or how much of that is just his innate goodness. And I think, like we all noted, Egg is very sharp and perceptive, and he sensed the goodness within Dunk, right away too. So it was a nice little meet cute and character revealing, again, without being exposition heavy to make us feel in, characters revealed through action, and the way that they, both acted in that scene and behaved, set a good foundation for their relationship going forward. It's very charming.
I actually wonder if Egg was the actual stable boy, because when he went into the inn, she asked if her stable boy was still out there or had he run off. And I'm like, that's an excellent question. We don't know that was the stable boy. He could have just plopped himself in there. I mean, this kid's a mystery. We don't know his motivation. I mean, I have an idea on what's driving him, but I have absolutely nothing to back that up. So also there's things we're not saying on purpose about him, for people who may not know. But yes, Jesse, I'm talking about you. But even knowing that, we can't be clear about his motivation. And I think he's looking for an adventure, and he'll go anywhere to find it. And this guy intrigued him, and I don't know how he ended up in that inn. Why he was like, okay, I guess I'll do the stable boy stuff. And apparently he's good at it. Very good at it. I mean, he was very good at the squiring. Yeah. I don't know how a kid his size is supposed to put up one of those pavilions. Good thing he doesn't have one. But, I mean, I think that's, really what I'm going to be hanging on in this show, is just, what is motivating Egg? Because he's so mysterious. And any moment now, he'll start manifesting his air bending powers, and it'll be an excellent crossover moment. I cannot get over how much he looks like Aang. It's so ridiculous. Go watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon, not the movie. Please don't watch that movie. You'll love it. I just need more of these two. It was a great dynamic.
So we were discussing the over and under of how many air bender jokes we would get. So I am absolutely convinced that Egg was just hiding in the stable, because she says, my son, or has he run off? So at least that's what I heard.
Oh, no,
I only watched it once.
Her son shot down one of the meal options that was available.
But I thought it sounded like her stable boy was a son too, but I don't know.
No, she
that.
mentioned the stable boy separately from her son.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Mistress of
You're
Correction.
welcome.
Yeah. I was convinced he was just there, hiding, getting, free rent, a room and board. But maybe he was. I love the back and forth. You don't look like a knight, which is, sounds like almost any kind of, right, kind of meet cute for sure. And then you have a rope for a belt, right? Well, if it holds up my sword, my scabbard, what does it matter? It's like, well, and then later we get that, right? You look more like a farmer than you do. So yeah, great setup. He has no interest in him, which gives you a great payoff at the end and as they said, you are someone who needs a squire more than almost anyone else. And I think all of us are going there. You've got 3 horses. You don't know what to do. I kept thinking someone's going to steal his stuff. Like he's going to leave that and like, oh, look, horses, and someone's going to take them. So yeah, great choice.
Yeah, Jesse, I also assumed that the person that Dunk gave the horses to was not the person that the tavern lady was referring to. I was like, he's pretending to be the stable boy. And that was one thing I wanted to, I'm going to pivot to another honorable mention, which is how we have the world keep telling him, you don't look like a knight. Are you sure you're a knight? You're not really a knight. So I like how they've sort of laid that down right from the start, and we'll see what he's got. In that other scene where he arrives and the squire to somebody else, the one who comes out and challenges him, and he's like, no, I'm not going to fight you. They talk later, and it's very clear that Duncan doesn't know anything that he should be doing. So I'm assuming that will be more of what we see them navigating together as well, is how to fake it till you make it. So though, other highlights anyone wants to call out?
There was one thing I wanted to make sure that we all noticed in the tavern. The drunken guy that he looked at by surprise, like woke up from a stupor behind his bench and then stumbled up the stairs at the end. The games master did say that there were princes in the area, and this guy gets up with a shaggy mane of bright blonde hair and leaves a little coin on the table that has a 3-headed dragon on it. And then he also, the only thing he really says is, I saw you in a dream, which if we think about, the legendary, sometimes purported, sometimes actually real powers of the Targaryens is a prescience or a foresight or dreamers. I mean, after all, Daenerys the Dreamer is the reason they left the old Valyria to escape the Doom. So, I mean, I think it's quite clear that guy's a Targ. So there's probably some Targ princes there at the Ashford tourney.
Again, Shannon's stealing my stuff. That's the first thing in my so I wanted to highlight like sort of a list of things that make you go, And that was absolutely my thought. That is clearly a Targaryen right there. Although he didn't have the white hair. He had blonde hair, like yellow blonde, which honestly, there's so much, mixing by this point that there's probably, I think we all know about a certain black-haired Targaryen that pops out near the end there. So anything's possible. He was definitely dressed like a Targaryen, as drunk as, some of them get. He had the attitude. I didn't think about the dreamer thing though. Good point. Something else I wanted to, bring up was that, I was trying to do a rewatch of Game of Thrones before this came out, and I caught at least 2 mentions of Duncan the Tall in the first show. There may be more after the second one that I heard. I did not finish my rewatch, but interesting stuff in there. I'll let people go find those points on their own. Enjoy your rewatch. But I had another question, just like, who was that guy in the inn? Why are the whores playing dead? What is that about? Why are they pretending to be silent sisters and having one of them play dead? What, is this a kink? Is this something I don't know about?
No kink shaming here, but I did not get that one either.
I was very confused.
I had no idea what that was about. I'm guessing it must be for some kind of a con.
Or it could be part of like they did that poem with the lady puppeteer of the dragon. Maybe it's part of a play, show. Yeah. Or something, is maybe that.
In his private tent?
Yeah.
Are they practicing?
Yeah, I don't know. That was a head scratcher for me.
This needs to come up later. This needs to come up later. Absolutely.
Well, I'm assuming those two whores will return for sure. And I loved how they were so familiar with, like, when Dunk shows up and they're like, yeah, it's another one. And I liked their contribution of humor.
And he was so sad when he's like, I'm just asking for a little help. And then instantly they're like, oh, they're used to being treated roughly and treating everybody else roughly in kind of a bawdy situation. And then instantly they showed him some sympathy and compassion then.
Yep, absolutely.
We did get a dragon sighting, though not a real dragon, but I did like the little skit. There are a lot of similarities to the film that should not be mentioned, including your thought is maybe there's other, not just jousting, are there other games or skills that he could possibly compete in to win coin or something? And there's a dark-haired beauty that if you look at the coming up may show up similar to that movie that wouldn't be thing. This was a really tight, fun 42 minutes.
Yeah, I do want to give a little shout out to that moment where he's, the arrow strikes his heart as he's watching the actress on stage. That was really sweet. I think I keep using that word sweet, but I think that is the word to describe Dunk, at least at this point, his character. And hopefully the cruel world isn't going to turn him cruel, as we go forward. But, it was a great combination of funny moments, interesting characters and sort of interpersonal, moments. And yet still that, the pure heart of a knight that is underlining Duncan so far.
I'm going to add another word to our Duncan vocabulary and say wholesome. Because I don't want this getting too sweet. It's bad for your stomach. And we've seen what that can lead to. Definitely the call out to the girl on the stage. I saw her and I'm like, oh, she's coming back. Yeah, we're definitely going to see her again. And kudos to medieval pyrotechnics. That was cool. I'm pretty sure most of the people in the tent were there for the pyrotechnics and they weren't paying any attention to her. But Dunk was.
I watched it twice to try to see how in show they did it. I know special effects and they probably had a flamethrower and whatever, but the dragon looked good and you could see the guys dressed in green to blend in with the sticks moving the dragon. But I was like, how did they get the fire to come out, on the stage in the show? I got to go back and rewatch that, but it looked good. And you could tell the crowd was like, ooh, ah.
Well, from what I remember of previous fire techniques with Game of Thrones, they filmed the fire separately and then edited it into the scene.
No, I mean, how did the puppeteer do it? Like in the
Oh, you mean like in the show? There's a torch.
In the Game of Thrones.
There's a torch and they spray flammable, probably like moonshine level alcohol out of the mouth of the dragon.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was like a guy in there or how they did it, but it looked great. Again, within the reality of the Hedge Knight, so the patrons were duly impressed, as they should be.
Yeah, I definitely liked that they incorporated, the play. I'll call it the play, because that was something that was used really effectively in Game of Thrones as well. So we didn't have, this wasn't a lengthy episode, and I think we liked a lot of it. Any dings? It's okay to say no?
No, not for me. I thought it hit every target it aimed for. I would have liked to have seen an opening credits, and a lot of times pilots don't have them, so maybe that's this. I don't think we need in a 30-minute episode, 3 minutes of a tapestry or a map or, any of the other wonderful things that the other shows have done. But, if they do it, I hope they keep it simple and incorporate that great score, that they've had so far.
I do have a bit of a ding. So we all appreciated the joke, but I think we all didn't care much for the grossness of, the defecation. And, I'd like to add to that, I didn't need the guy checking his credentials, hawking a loogie every 5 minutes. That was unnecessary. I mean, we get it. It's gross. This world is gross. I didn't.
It was gross, but I cackled. That was so funny.
I don't like toilet humor, and I felt that was like one time maybe. I'll accept one time, but he did it a second time and I'm done. No. So hopefully there's less of that as we go forward. I don't know.
Oh, speaking of spitting, I do want to add another little thing I loved. The little things are like, they're almost Family Guy cutaways. Whenever Dunk talks about his mentor, and he'll tell something grandiose, and then he's like, and then one day he told me I would be a knight, and then it shows his mentor just go spit out an apple or something. All those little cutbacks are quick and funny as heck.
Did anybody else scream ow when we watched him get hit into a pillar? My head hurt in sympathy. It was so shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any dings. I did go, Dunk, are you washing your hands after that? I mean, like, we need some sanitation, okay? You've had explosive diarrhea. Like, there's got to be some paperwork after the fact, and also, handle up on your business with your hands. And I was like, then when he would, walking around like, oh, wow, there's just disease everywhere.
It's almost like the life expectancy was shorter in this time period for some reason.
Well, Jesse, we did see him take a bath and do his laundry afterwards, so there's a modicum of cleanliness that happened along the way. I do agree with you, Christine, about I have a low tolerance for the toilet humor type stuff as well. I think it'd be good if we actually heard Dunk say something about his weak stomach at some point, too. I think that would be helpful. The last thing, Jesse, did you have anything more you wanted to add, positive or anything? I just wanted to again shout out the music, because I think it's really smart that they've taken a different approach with the music and the opening credits. This feels like a fairy tale in a lot of ways, and I think that you can have really simple credits that just, the title overlays with the cueing music to set things up. I think they can really keep it simple, because I think this is going to be a simpler story.
I would not buy a Game of Thrones soundtrack, even though I think the music is powerful, but I actually could see me getting this for background music. It's just felt very comforting, and it fit the mood, so I could actually see wanting to hear some more of this music.
So any final thoughts around the table before we break for this week?
I just want to let the listeners know, if you've heard us mention the unmentionable movie several times and gone, wait, I haven't seen that. It is currently available on all streaming apps that have a U in it, Hulu, Fubo, and Tubi. So if you want to find out what we're all talking about, it's available there.
And I just rewatched that about 2 weeks ago, and it's utterly charming. What a really good movie. Didn't do well at the box office, but just incredible performances all around.
And am I remembering correctly? Isn't Mark Addy in that movie? Who played Robert Baratheon?
Yes.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely right. He is a squire in that movie.
So there's a connection.
There's a connection. Go watch A Knight's Tale.
It really is a good, I mean, it has just enough, kind of tongue in cheek with the dance scene and the ball, but it's really sweet. Heath Ledger is amazing in this. And
Alan Tudyk is hilarious.
Alan Tudyk, yeah, a great
and
cast.
Paul Bettany
Yeah.
is
Paul
fantastic. as
Bettany. Do
Chaucer
you think we're
in it.
gonna get Chaucer in this show?
Yeah, and then and the scene where the prince at the end is very touching. Now I'm gonna go watch this. I'm gonna catch it up. Yeah, thank you. Great suggestion.
Yes, thank you for sharing where folks can find it. So before we go, we want to thank everyone for listening. We would love to hear your feedback and thoughts on this series as we start our ride through Westeros again. And we appreciate you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everybody. It's great being here with my fellow Maesters, and look forward to hearing from you guys. This show looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Bye, everyone. Watch those door frames.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
We'd love to hear our listeners voice thoughts and send us feedback. Call us at 706-927-8478. Stop by our tuningintoscifitv.com blog to record a SpeakPipe message, or check the show notes and leave us comments. From the blog, you can also find links to forum discussions and subscribe to our RSS feed. Call into our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Skype account and leave us a message. Be social with us on our Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV Facebook page, or follow us at Tuning Into Sci-Fi on Twitter.
You've been listening to Small Council Matters from Tuning Into Sci-Fi TV, episode 121, recorded January 19th, 2026.